Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. All right, everybody. She's Velvet Steele's in the house.
In the house.
All right. So for all of you that are joining us today, we're excited to have you. And we're just jumping right in. So I'm actually set a timer on my phone. So when you hear beeping, it's, not me baking anything in the oven yet. hopefully one Monday that'll be like, I'm sorry, it's my muffins, homemade.
Come on, Betty Crocker.
Yeah, right. But we are going to be cutting off because today is the first day of our challenge that we've got going on. So I'm super excited. I know a ton of my SoCal girlfriends. What up, ladies? Are signed up to do this with me. And
you must have really smart girlfriends.
I feel like I was looking at all the people joining last night and commenting, and I want to say, California was representing in the house, and I'm the only one of the three of us here that lives in California, but we were all there. We're like logging on. Let's just don't pay attention to our kids or our husband. Okay. We're like, oh, let's check this out. So I don't know, but we're excited. So
yeah, just checking in to see. We've got Cody and Alicia and Tessa, three amazing women on this morning. Good morning. Tessa's all bringing her whoop whoops. Isn't it kind of early for you, Tessa, for the whoop whoops? Maybe a morning person. I don't know.
She is a morning person. I saw that last night.
Is she?
Yeah.
Hey, I need to clarify that just a little bit. I'm kind of like a mid-morning person.
Okay.
So I'm up early because my kids wake me up early, but I prefer like 9 o'clock. I've got a short window that I have to optimize on a daily basis. I'm like good from 9 to 11 and then in the morning. And then after that, never know what you're going to get. So
really we should be adjusting the coffee talk time, or we're right in your window, right?
We're right in the middle.
Right in her window.
In her window. All right.
Well, my window, baby.
My window is slammed shut by 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, nobody be talking to me. All right. It's no longer a window. It's, prison cells. So,
yeah. We could have a whole coffee talk on early bird night owl discussion.
Absolutely. But that isn't our coffee talk today, just in case you were wondering. We just, part of what we want to do with our coffee talks and even with each other, what we've been talking about this morning, we just thought, want to be real, authentic, and let you know what's going on in our heads. And
oh, that's scary. What's going on in our heads?
I'm actually scared.
Not all of it.
Some of what was going on in our heads, we were scared, just got shared before we went live. And, that could be we could be needing therapy after that. But today is 9/11. So we're all, sometimes I share that with people, like my kids, they still don't totally comprehend because I've got little girls that understand what 9/11 is. My 11-year-old does. But for us, it's like, it's not even just been 9/11. We've been watching the news and following and praying for all the people in Florida. And my 9-year-old was saying, like, didn't it already flood there? And I was like, no, actually that was somewhere else. And this summer I went on a missions trip to Mexico, and the one place that I went was where the earthquake hit of all the state of Mexico. So I've been texting back and forth with them. And then I saw on the national news, because I was cooking, cleaning, and then all of a sudden I saw Missoula, Montana. I think it said Cody, Montana, but it said Missoula or something. And it showed the fires. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my state. So it's just, there is just stuff going on, and just craziness. Like, I have found out that a dear friend, a little boy that I used to babysit, he's not still little, like a grown man now, but from birth just passed away in an accident. And I just thought, God, what is going on?
Right.
Where are the days when we're like, turning on the news just to find out we shouldn't be eating at McDonald's? What are those days?
Reagan, do you remember where you were at during 9/11?
I do. It was at home being woken up. So that was one thing we even thought, ladies, just to kind of keep it interactive. Where were you guys at? What about you, Jen, Jamie?
Yeah, I totally remember it. I was teaching my first year at school. I was a third grade teacher, and I was driving to work that morning, and I heard it on the radio. And I'm like, really? Is this for real? And then got to school, and of course then have a room full of third graders who also been hearing about that. And So yeah, I was at the school with third graders and talking with teachers about how are we going to handle this and what are we going to tell the kids, and they're away from their parents right now, so kind of managing the fears there and stuff. But I totally remember it. Yeah. Eric was out of town too, so that kind of freaks me out a little bit of him being gone for a conference. And so anyway, yeah, totally remember it.
Yeah. I remember the apartment we were living in. We were living in a tiny little apartment over by Shopko, like central area. And I was pregnant with Gregor. Is that right? No, that's not right. I was pregnant with somebody.
Yeah, it would have been Gregor because I became pregnant post 9/11 with.
Yeah, that's right. I was pregnant with Gregor. And I just remember holding my belly, watching the news and just crying. And Becky from Huntington Beach is from New York. And so she actually, I want to say she was living there at the time. Anyway, so she had called me, or I had been calling her kind of frantic. And, but I just remember holding my belly and thinking, what is this? It was such a foreign feeling to me because, I'd just been focused on getting my husband through pharmacy school. He had just graduated. Our life was beginning. We're having our first baby. And I just remember being thoroughly confused on the stream of the news and holding my baby and thinking, what kind of world is this child going to be born into? And I think most of us on here, and probably a lot of our SVS community, boy, our brains can take it to all kinds of levels, right?
Yeah. Welcome to motherhood, right? I feel like there's something in your brain now that you just, like you said, I mean, you're pregnant with your first baby and now you're like seeing this and you're immediately thinking like, oh my gosh, how this like baby that I'm having, like, what are they growing up into? And I mean, who knew how that would change our world, like that one act? And I mean, even now you just think there's a lot that, everybody's trying to cope with. And I think it's not even as much as like we now, like, it's not our responsibility just figuring out how do we cope with it. We got to cope to such a degree for our kids, try to teach them like, okay, this stuff happens. And I think I was having a discussion with my little girls asking like, well, why when, one, I was impressed. She actually remembered about the flood in the Bible. I always get a little impressed. And I remember any Bible stories. Okay.
You were listening.
I was like, oh my gosh. But she was like, I thought God said that he would never do a flood again. And now there's a flood. And, of course, my older daughter who, it's got to be like, it's not the whole world. It's only part. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, like just trying to explain this stuff to them, and 9/11, I did let them watch a documentary, but we turned it off because I was just sobbing and they were like staring at me. And I'm like, okay, this is not enjoyable. Me watching what happened and crying and trying to make you guys feel something, where to them, it's just like, I don't know, like they can be a little disconnected, I think.
Yeah, that happened Friday night. We were at a football game and my 11-year-old, my middle child, who is dyslexic and does not like to read, he's picked up this 9/11 book. I think it's one of those those little readers, like not Treehouse, but some sort of historical book geared towards children. And it was on 9/11. And he was just devouring it in the car. And when we got to the football game, he asked Andy if he could pull up like a YouTube video or a documentary on 9/11 and watch it. Wow. Of course, my first thought is looking at my husband like, you're not going to let him watch it, are you? Because I respond with such grace and patience and humility when I speak to my husband like that, but that was my first heart is like, don't let him watch that. I don't want him to watch that, and, he picked out a documentary and I trusted my husband and stuff, but I saw my 11-year-old watching it intensely. And then my 10-year-old and my 8-year-old watching over his shoulder. And my daughter, my youngest, the 9-year-old was like, what is this? Why did they do that? I don't understand why. And I just thought, I'd rather talk about sex with you than this, like I can explain sex and all of that, but I can't explain.
We will have an SVS sex talk, and please have your kids tune in. Jen will now be leading that. Okay. I will have my kids there.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
I got a lot of smiley faces on that one. Yeah, I could tell. Yeah. But so
well, you know, one thing with tragedies like that, or even having to explain something or having the questions of why, because the reality is that, you know, that adults have had some of those same questions. I do.
Absolutely.
When tragedy hits, when crisis hits, that's one of the things that we ask. Why this,
Right.
you know? And I think that we could have a really long discussion on why tragedy, why bad things to good people, all of those things that come up. And to be honest with you, it took some tragedy and it took some crisis and it took some processing through my own pain to even have a glimpse of why for certain things. I mean, obviously we can't ever really know the motive behind the actions of others, but I guess why would God allow these things, right? Why does God allow bad things like this? Why does he allow fighting between nations, and why, you know? I think one thing that happens, I mean, we cope with it in lots of different ways, but one thing that happens is the unnecessary frivolous things of the day go to the wayside and get out of our way, you know, from distracting our mind, because that's really what happens a lot is we live on a distracted plane. All of those go to the wayside, and what's important and what we want to believe and what we're trying to figure out comes to the surface.
Right.
You know, so our questions, our doubts, and our beliefs come up into eye level, and we start to
We have to face it.
Looking at him. Yeah. And we're like, does this line up with what I believe about me, about human nature, about God, about my future, you know? And so, I mean, that's definitely, I think it's a good part about it. It can be scary for a lot of people, questioning and doubting, but questioning and doubting doesn't scare God. And he actually encourages us to intelligently look at what we believe and why we believe what we believe. So certainly days like today, or the natural disasters of the last few months, even from fires to hurricanes to flooding. I mean, all of those things in these times, or losing your friend, Reagan. I mean, it causes us to get to the nitty gritty of things that matter.
Absolutely.
No, it does. And I think that's, I mean, you kind of summed it up into the healthy thing of like, just asking the questions, and sometimes coming to the point of like realizing like, you know, what do we believe about God? Like with this kind of stuff, like what false ideas? I mean, I know, like, you know, and watching you walk through the stuff with Noah, you know, your own child, like, I mean, I'll take, you know, natural disasters and people I kind of know that might be there close to it. You're already a little worried, but I mean, there's nothing. I mean, we're all mothers here, that when it hits home with your own child, that you're just like, I don't want people coming up to me saying like, oh, don't worry, God works everything out for good. I mean, yes, do I believe that? But there's almost like a slight implication, I think, sometimes that we're feeling like this happened so God can work something out for good. You know, that God made bad things happen so that he can be, you know, shown glorious. And, you know, sometimes that's like kind of that thinking of like, is that how we think? And I think you don't realize, like, you never have to like question a relationship with anything, God, your spouse, your kids, your friends, until sometimes something happens. And then you're like, okay, is that really my friend? Like all of a sudden you find out something. Did they do this? What do they really think about this? Like, is that okay to them? Did they make this happen? Like, I just think a lot of that is questions that no matter how long you've been a Christian, maybe you aren't a Christian, or those that are trying to wonder in our faith, like that's where you're thinking like, okay, God, this is what is going on, which, you know, to lighten it up a little bit, are we going to leave you wondering about this crazy stuff? Are we, Jen? Are we going to leave me sitting here wondering, what is God doing? Yeah, but are we?
I'm kidding with this. We were joking because I have a smoker's cough from all the smoke around here, so I might as well just own up to it, right? No, we're not going to leave you guys. In fact, today, our 6-day challenge, free challenge starts. And I was thinking about it last night. I thought 6 days is not long enough. I mean, I'm already looking at what I'm going to be talking about today within the group. And it's going to be very difficult to keep it short. But it is based on, this whole 6-day challenge is based on eliminating those roadblocks that are in your way. So things like this happen that we've been talking about all morning. How you absorb it and what you do with it is going to determine how you treat your family during crisis, the kind of choices you make, the actions you take, all of that stuff. And all of it is based on, it really starts on today's topic. And that is eliminating false beliefs about God. Who is God? Like who is he? Because if we don't have that figured out, nothing's going to satisfy. Nothing's going to make sense. And let me preface that. I have a firm belief on who God is, and still things don't make any sense. But I don't have to go by my feelings. I can stand on those truths that I know, and I can claim those truths even when the feeling and everything is rolling around me that doesn't make any sense. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. Well, you and I said it yesterday when I was talking to you, Jen. We love to have things make sense. We love to have things in a proper order.
Absolutely.
And our logical mind likes to have targets and plans and things lined out and in motion. But God's economy does not work the way that the natural world works. It just doesn't. And so he operates differently than we do. He thinks differently than we do. He has the ability to see generations after generations and the implication of today on those generations. I mean, It's like, I mean, if we really want to get down to it, we are very finite, you know? Yes. And so for us to try to make sense of everything that God does and how he works would be silly. But I think that we could boil it back to, are you going to choose to trust your understanding of how God works, or will you trust what he says and what he's proven about his heart? Right. You know, I think that was my big thing with Noah. We were talking about it this morning. I can remember when he was 4 weeks old and I'm sitting like this in the hospital in the dark and he's got wires coming off of his head. This is when we first discovered he was having seizures. And they had kind of told us when infants get seizures, usually the outcome is grim. I'm like, thank you for sharing. So I'm sitting there crying in the middle of the night, unable to sleep, listening to the beep, beep, beeping of the machines and the nurses passing, waiting for results. And I'm like, I don't get how you can bring good from this. I don't understand it. Why him? He's a baby. He doesn't get this. Like, this isn't something that he would even understand to be true. I don't get it. But here's what I know is you said it, right? And that you knew it and you know what's coming. And so I can remember saying, I don't get it. I don't get you. I'd rather this be me than Noah, and, you know, going through this. But Noah, when I was 6 months pregnant, woke up in the middle of the night with Noah, the name Noah, in my mind. It was never on my mind. It wasn't on our list of names. And I went to the computer because I just had this like need to write, and I started writing about Noah. And I just felt like you should name him Noah, because he's going to be a continued sign of God's faithfulness in your life. Just like Noah had to trust what God said, regardless of the circumstances he saw. I don't see any flooding. I don't see any rain coming. Everybody thinks I'm kooky and crazy. But did it happen? It did. But after years and years and years, right? And so I knew that Noah was going to be my rainbow. He was going to continually remind me of God's promises. So I'm sitting there in the hospital like, are you kidding me? You know, like, I named him Noah, you know? Mm-hmm. But what that did, though, is it brought to the surface what I thought God being good meant, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what God knew that those were some beliefs that I held that were holding me back. Mm-hmm. God knew that there were some things that were going to trip me up every time I faced something down the road, you know? And on this side of it, 7 years later, I have watched him bring good out of this situation over and over and over again. So, yeah, I'm excited about today because this is where it starts, you know, if we can kick this in the teeth, then everything else is going to feel like, a molehill, right, you know, compared to this mountain. So I'm excited today to do some blasting on this one.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
You're not in.
It is little rocky. So the good news is, for those of you that you know, were just too lazy, or you started signing up and you clicked out, you've got 20 seconds, 20, maybe even 15 if you're a fast typer like me. You know, the link's going to be below in the comments, and today's day one, so you're not behind, and it's free. So we're signing you up. We just really want to create like a smaller community where we can kind of like be encouraging to each other, because honestly, with anything that you believe, be it false, be it true, you're stronger together. Having people reinforce that, because you know what, when you're feeling weak, you just need a friend that comes and says like, hey, don't listen to that crazy crap in your head right now. Don't listen to what those people are saying. You know it's true. And that's really what the core of SVS is it's not because we're sitting here and we're like, we're going to do a thing because we've got it all together. We're saying, you know what, we know where we need to be. We know where we want to be. And we don't want to go alone. We want to create a group of women that are said like, you know what, I'm going there too. And so it's day one of the challenge. I'm super excited. I mean, 5-minute video? What, Jen? How's that possible? So we already went 4 minutes over what I thought we were going to do this morning, but who cares, right?
I'm going to talk really, really fast. So be ready with your pen and your paper.
Yeah. So log in, get the notes, start tagging people that aren't on this, because the link will still be here today.
Right.
You can't get it like right at this moment. And they'll still get themselves signed up. So exciting. Sitting at everybody, we're going to be praying this week. And if you need prayer, because there's crazy stuff going on, please feel free to post in the comments, and we're looking back and we're going to be praying for those. We don't just say like, we're praying for you. We really are praying for you. And, loved ones, smoke inhalation thing that's going on in Montana, I can't even imagine. And just, anything, kids' nerves at schools and stuff. So
yeah. Special thoughts for everybody today that's dealing with all the coming back of all the emotions from 9/11 too. Just really thinking about you guys.
Absolutely. All right. Oh, Cody just signed up. That was in like 5 seconds. All right.
Alicia did too. So
Alicia, how are you not signed up? That's what I want to know.
I've been keeping her busy. Okay. I've been keeping her very busy. So it took them a few seconds, you guys. The link, I just posted it in the comments. So it's right there. You guys can click on it and get in there. So
all right.
On the other side.
See you in the group.
All right.
Okay.
Bye. Have a great week.
Bye.